Hey guys, it's Hannah, and before jumping into the video, I felt it would be wrong to at least not briefly address some of the issues that are going on around the world and in the US. The crisis is happening in Yemen. I will leave a place where you can donate below, as well as an informational article, along with other websites to further educate yourself on some of the topics I'm going to mention, as well as places to donate, though I do always recommend doing your own research. Don't only trust me. Just like you should never only trust one person, always do your own research. If there's one thing to take away, it's that, please. I hardly feel qualified to talk about the Black Lives Matter movement because while it is something that I followed and supported, I didn't and don't know all that I should know. I am still learning, just like all of you are still learning, and it feels wrong to say heartwarming, but it is that so many people are paying attention now and are using their voices now. And while I've used my voice more on Instagram, which is my most used social media platform, I felt it was wrong to not at least briefly mention here, as well as give you resources in the description box where you can further educate yourself. They're really great articles on how to speak to people who are racist in your family without coming off as confrontational, so it can be a productive conversation. That's something I'm learning big time because I'm an emotional debater, and sometimes that kind of ruins my entire argument because I get too accusatory and they just shut off. So anyway, I'm going to leave some places down below where you can donate, further educate yourself, as well as some helpful articles that I found, and that's all I'm going to mention on it for right now. I think it's a highly important topic and I really encourage you to do some research. So I'm going to leave it at that. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Hey guys, it's Hannah, and today I'm going to tell you about some movies that you did not know were based on books, and to top off that list, I'm going to start off with Bladerunner. So this was originally by Alan E. Nourse. It was written about 1974, and it doesn't really follow much of the movie plot, which is so well known. They recently did a sequel to it, Blade Runner 2049, I think is what the name is. The movie has nothing to do other than the namesake, essentially, from the book. The book follows a kind of underground medical service and like the smuggling of organs, which kind of feels a little bit Reaper Man? Repo Man. And the title makes a lot more sense with the book than it does the movie. But I digress. The next one is a cult classic favorite of everyone's around the holidays, it seems, and that's Die Hard. It was originally based on an action thriller novel. So the book is called Nothing Lasts Forever, which is actually a sequel to the first book called The Detective. This was released in about 1979, and it's odd that a sequel is really what the movie is without there being a... But you know what? It works! The next movie on the list definitely felt like a book when I was watching it. It's called The Pianist. It is very difficult to watch, but very marvelously done. It was a pretty long movie, if I remember. And originally the book was called The Extraordinary True Story of One Man's Survival in Warsaw between 1939 and 1945. And from what I read, it is very true to movie and book. The movie was so moving. It was very well acted. The directing was amazing. Like, there wasn't a ton of dialogue, but what dialogue there was very important, and it was just a really marvelously done movie. I recommend that for sure. Next is more of an obscure movie, more kind of my taste, and it is called Berlin Syndrome. It is definitely a thriller. Melanie Joosten is the writer, and I don't want to tell you a ton about plot just because it's such like a mystery thriller element going on. If you're familiar with the syndrome, Berlin Syndrome, I feel like that gives you enough of a hint to what this movie is about. But it follows a young tourist traveling, and she's in Berlin, and she has a one-night stand with this guy, and things go horribly wrong. And that's all I will say. The next is a movie that I grew up on. It is so nostalgic for me. It is called The Beach, and it is written by Alex Garland, and it was actually also directed by Alex Garland. He actually wrote the book originally. It wasn't like one of those filmed movies the other way around, but actually book to movie. And he's one of my favorite writers/directors. I'm kind of going through this thing where I want to watch all the movies he's, had a hand in. I just like his style. I get on with it. He actually has another mention in here a little bit later. But The Beach follows another tourist. He's in Thailand, and he ends up meeting up with these other backpackers. And they go to this, idyllic beach that's kind of, I don't know, like an urban legend, but in, a positive way. It's like the City of Gold is, how it's probably doesn't exist, but everyone, dreams about this place, and they found it. And it's very much an adventure story. I loved that movie. I really want to read the book. I've had it on my list for a while. Next one is Contact. I'm a big Carl Sagan fan. I I have not read this book yet, but the movie was hugely popular back in, I want to say it was 96, I think somewhere around there, but the book came out in 1985. It was written by Carl Sagan. It deals with the theme of contact between humanity and this other intelligent, technologically advanced life form, and the journey in which humans go through to find the contact there. I'm trying not to spoil. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is going to be a brief mention for me. I grew up on this movie. It's a nostalgic one. I did not know it was a book. It's actually a children's novel that was originally by Ronald Dahl, and it was made in about 1964. Loved the movie. It's one of those must-watch. You just kind of have to see it. It's really brilliant, very beautiful. It's just an overall great movie. It's one of my favorites. Next one, so remember how I said Alex Garland was going to come back in? He's back. So Annihilation was a movie that made quite a bit of buzz, in my opinion. I remember seeing commercials for it and everyone was really excited just because it looked so visually very intriguing. It was originally based on a book by, what was his name? Jeff VanDermeer. It was actually like a trilogy of books called The Southern Reach. So it describes this team of 4 women, and they don't actually have names in the book, which I thought was interesting in my feminist soul a little bit, but I also felt like that would probably make it a lot more clinical. So one was like a pathologist, one was a biologist, an anthropologist, and a surveyor, and that is what they're called throughout the novel. And so they go out into this area that is called Area X, where they're, I don't want to say like deciphering, but there are teams that have gone in. I believe they were the 12th one that has gone into this shimmer, this veil, and they're in there trying to uncover what it is, what it's doing, how to stop it, where it's starting. But what is so interesting about this is it's almost like these growths are like cancerous growths. So it's like these flowers, which are so beautiful, and foliage, which again is so beautiful, and it like mimics human form, but in this like tumorous way, but in a way that makes the tumor kind of beautiful. It's really bizarre. The movie's great. I've watched it a few times. You'll probably definitely want to watch like an explanation video after the fact. Just pay attention. It's really what I would recommend. Arrival was nominated for an Oscar back in, I want to say it was like 2016, and I saw it in theaters. I kind of was indifferent toward it, and then after the fact have watched it many times again, and it's one of my favorites. I love it. And it was based on a novella by Ted Chang called Story of Your Life. So it follows a linguist who is brought in by the United States Army to try and communicate with these creatures that have, I want to say, landed on our planet. They have arrived on the planet. It's all in this effort to prevent war. And so all the nations are kind of trying to work together and find their own ways of communication. And this just really follows hers. And it's brilliantly edited. The editing on this was masterful. You really have to pay attention, probably watch it twice. It was wonderful. I really want to read the book. Fight Club seems kind of an obvious one. I feel like a lot of people know that this is a book, and I've tried to avoid the obvious ones, but it's popular enough that maybe people don't. It's originally by Chuck, never can say his last name, Palahniuk. I struggle every time. And again, I will try not to spoil. If you're one of the few people left on Earth who have not seen the movie, watch it. It's great. So it follows this main character who apparently in the book doesn't actually have a name, which I think is, again, interesting. This thing of not naming characters. Anyway, he has a very rather large problem with insomnia, and his doctor was like, insomnia is not really suffering, and he really is. And so because of that remark, he ends up going to these different, I want to call them like coping groups, like AA or cancer survival, or going through cancer, like these like support groups, just because it makes him feel something. It's really, really a great movie. Haven't read any of his books yet. I have a friend who loves them, and I'm sure he would let me borrow them. Next, I'm going to briefly touch on Up in the Air. This was originally a novel by Walter Kern. The movie follows a corporate downsizer who essentially his job is to travel to different places because a company hires him to fire their employees or lay them off. And then he, I don't want to say gives them a pep talk because that's so not the vibe, but like prepares them for entering a new career, a new position, like gives them, again, I don't even want to say advice. It's very quippy, but that's kind of what's happening. And then his career is kind of in jeopardy because there's this new idea that comes about where you can just do this digitally. And so he kind of takes on this challenge where he takes along this person who thought of digitally firing people and tries to convince her that you have to do it in person by taking her along with her. So that's kind of how the movie goes. It sounds bad, but I promise it's good. Okay, my last two. One is a horror novel. The movie has the same name. It's called The Ruins. It was written by Scott Smith, and it was based in the Yucatan Peninsula, I believe. Let me check. Sure, I'm right. And it's very much like a horror survival genre where, teenagers end up going to these ruins. There's a native tribe living nearby, and obviously there's a communication issue there. They try approaching the tribe, they get shot, I think, with like a bow and arrow, and they're now trapped and isolated on these ruins. It's one ruin. Plural? Singular? You get my point. And then you suddenly start to understand why the native tribes do not want them leaving from that space, because it's, can I say cursed to be vague so I don't give too much away? Creepy skin crawlies, that movie. Last one's another weird one that, like, I guess I would call it horror. It's not really that neo-horror genre either. It's bizarre. It's called Nocturnal Animals, which was originally a book called Tony and Susan by Austen Wright. First time I saw this movie, did not like it. And then for some reason, because I'm a glutton for punishment, decided to watch it again. And I did like it. And then I think of it's a favorite. The way that the story is told, God, you have to pay attention. You can't half-ass watch this movie, or you will be so lost. And there's so much I could give away on this, so I'm actually going to directly read a summary. A successful Los Angeles art gallery owner's idyllic life is marred by the constant traveling of her second husband. While he is away, she is shaken by the arrival of a manuscript written by her first husband. The manuscript tells the story of a teacher who finds a trip with his family turning into a nightmare. As Susan reads the book, it forces her to examine her past and confront some dark truths. What's interesting about this is the way it's cast. Jake Gyllenhaal, he's Tony in this. He's also the character in the manuscript that he wrote, but he's also this person outside of it. And then Amy Adams is this person outside of it. And then Isla Fisher, who looks quite similar to her, is a character in the novel. So it really forces you think it's the same thing. You think it's like this retelling of this, or did this actually happen? Did it not happen? Is it just to visually it's very interesting. It's very cerebral. It's very, very dark. Like, don't watch this thinking it's gonna be light. I didn't watch it thinking it was gonna be light, but like, I did not know what I was getting into. So full on warning you, there are plenty of trigger warnings in this movie. Research it before if you're curious. So I tried to stick to movies that weren't obvious choices. I did not say Harry Potter. I did not say Twilight. I went for the ones you won't know. I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and if you'd like a sequel to this video, please let me know down there in the comments. I also have some other videos that I might be doing next that you can vote on which one you'd like to see first. I have that listed in the description. All you gotta do is comment with the letter that you want, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye!